This is Chris Wiegman here with GroupOne Consulting. We're an IT services firm in the Sacramento region. Today we're here with Andrew Riordan from Adams Group. They are one of our premier clients. We've been in business together as a partnership for 10 years now, and
It's been a while.
thanks for allowing us to record this today. We appreciate that. We obviously appreciate our relationship and our close partnership. I know the leadership group at GroupOne has a close relationship also with your leadership group. So it's been a great partnership, as I mentioned, and thanks again.
Yeah.
Maybe you could share with us a little bit about Adams and what you guys do as an organization and who you serve.
Sure. So yeah, thanks for coming up. It's kind of a long trek up here, but it's good to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Adams Group has been in business for over 100 years. So we actually just had Mike, our previous CEO's father, come and talk to us about a fifth generation company. He was doing the statistics on fifth generation companies, and third generation companies, about 20% of companies make it. Fourth generation companies, about 5% make it. And he said, fifth generation companies, you guys shouldn't even be sitting here. They just don't exist. It's really cool to have the family still intact. We have our new CEO, Wayne Adams, just took over the reins, the owner's son. So it's really cool to see the family still in business, still going strong, and hopefully another 100 more years.
No pressure on Wayne, right?
No pressure on Wayne.
For a sixth generation company.
Man, he just, in his young 30s, he's got some big shoes to fill.
He does, yeah. And thinking back over these past few years, we've noticed that he's been getting groomed for the position. And,
absolutely.
Great guy. I know he's had a good relationship with our COO, Sean, who's been with our organization for almost 10 years now. Mm-hmm. So it's really pretty cool.
Yeah.
You don't hear about that a lot. Actually, thinking back, and I've been 24 years in my career, I can't think of another company that we do business with that has a multi-generational business like Adams. So it's really cool.
It is pretty neat. So he's super smart. He's got two of his younger sisters, or actually one older sister, one younger sister, working here as well. One of which is my boss right now.
Oh,
so
awesome.
So it's been really cool.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
So we have a co-managed relationship with Adams dating back over 10 years now. We started that relationship obviously with gentleman that worked before you, and he was there for a few years, and then it sounds like you've come on board in 2017.
Right, yep.
Yeah, and so some of the things we've been doing for Adams in a co-managed relationship is working on managing your external network border. We're working on managing your network infrastructure, backups. Mm-hmm. We've done a lot with the Wi-Fi network. Some of that actually was prior to you being on board, but something unique about Adams is they have multiple facilities within a 25-mile radius of here, and what was great is they had a need for extending access between all of their facilities, and we actually helped them build and mature a Wi-Fi network that spanned all those locations, so they could have network infrastructure connectivity between them all. So pretty cool, especially to do a 25-mile wireless backhaul, which is pretty far actually.
But it runs solid.
So that's been actually pretty instrumental. I mean, when I think back 10 years to things like getting your backups off site and those kinds of things. Obviously, communication between the facilities down the road and then back up to the headquarters location.
Right.
So I know that in our co-managed relationship, you guys are handling some internal IT functions. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that and the reason why you elected to use more of like an internal IT staff versus outsourcing all of those functions.
Sure. So a lot of our culture was kind of based on having people on site. Very small company, and we're getting to a medium-sized company now with about 200 people. Yeah. But from when I've started till now, we've always had someone on site to be able to call to have that immediate impact, at least on the user side. So that's a lot of where we needed the internal support, is more immediacy, not in any distrust of any third party like GroupOne or our partner like you guys or anyone else. is really more just a more immediacy in how our culture has been built over the last 100 years. I'm sure, IT didn't exist 100 years ago, but
yeah. Well, I can think back again when we started the relationship, and you have an older school type of mentality that hadn't really built a business on having so much technology in their environment.
Yeah,
and then the users also, right?
I mean, back in the beginning, we're a grain business. I mean, they had a bunch of bins of grain and did it all on paper. So it was a very old school mentality, like you said.
Yeah. A couple other things real quick that that come to mind is, and you mentioned it off camera here, how you got an after hours call with one of your pieces of equipment called a PLC.
Right.
That type of equipment, when you have a manufacturing facility running 24/7, I mean, you need to have like that immediate.
Right.
So, and many times hands-on, right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So our maintenance manager called me. I called up one of my guys, and we had it fixed within 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to get that done.
Yeah. I mean, and then when you guys are here on site, if there's something going on at one of your facilities on the premise too, it's just you got that immediate hands-on.
Boots on the ground. It's really nice to have. On the flip side, though, having you guys here is just amazing.
Thank you.
We don't have the internal support or the expertise to build up all of our infrastructure, all of our backups, get them off site in a secure, safe way. I don't have the bandwidth to look at our servers 24/7, but basically for the price of a tech, we get an engineer, a project manager, a help desk. I mean, an ear to bounce ideas off.
And escalate tickets too, right?
Absolutely.
Right. If there's things beyond your capability, as an example, of your team, then you can just punt it up over to our team. And you've actually gotten to work with most of our team that have been with the organization the longest. So you work with David, myself, Chaz. I mean, these are folks that have been most tenured at the organization. So you've built a good relationship with them. That's actually a great point. Actually, one of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit was that what's the kind of the delineation between building a team internally and supporting that and managing that versus using an outsourced group like ourselves. And as you mentioned, typically it's like, hey, a network engineer is X amount of dollars, and a server, VMware type of engineer is X amount of dollars, and now we've got cloud, right? Like all this cloud platform. So we find internally at GroupOne that these are the kinds of relationships that we're targeting more often, to where we can work with the on-site in a co-managed fashion.
Right.
And I think, as you mentioned, it's been working out pretty well for you guys.
Yeah. So kind of where we drew the line in terms of delineation was, internal will handle all the workstations and end user type things, printers. We do have some expertise to handle some of the managed network switches.
Yeah.
But building it up, managing our servers, managing our edge network, getting into security, the knowledge of all that security stuff is just evolving all the time.
Yeah.
And you guys are perfectly suited to do it.
And that's a great point, actually. Security specifically, since you mentioned the topic, I'll dive into it a little bit. As I think back over the years, and not just with our relationship, but cybersecurity as an example, right? The big buzzword nowadays is becoming more of a thing nowadays than it was, say, even 5 years ago.
Yeah, or even 2.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we're hearing just recently, as an example, I did a quick podcast on this MGM hack that cost them, I read, now over $100 million, right? In downtime, multiple weeks to recover. So the industry groups have talked about this for many years, that, hey, we're going to, as an MSP, we're now going to have to come into the forefront and become the security expert also. So we're actually, we're starting to build out those teams and in that expertise as well. So
which is perfect to have you guys to leverage that knowledge. We don't have the bandwidth to hire a CISO or an engineer and a project manager. So it's really good to lean on you guys for that expertise.
Yeah.
And, with that delineation point, I always, going into our relationship when I first started, is like, where is it? Is it going to be black and white or gray? Is it going to be awkward?
Yeah.
It's never been awkward. It's been really, really great. So I think one of your employees had said, I like that I can talk to my clients as friends. And I talk to your team, as friends as well.
That's right.
It's never been awkward. It's never been anything weird or anything tough to figure out, we just dive in and figure it out as a team.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. I think that's wonderful feedback. Obviously, I get to hear some of that feedback, but it's nice to know that we've built like a trust relationship and a true partnership.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if there's something on both ends, right? Partnership is a two-way thing.
Sure.
If there's something that we're not hitting the mark on, or if we're feeling uncomfortable about maybe something you guys are doing in the IT space and the stuff that we manage, I mean, we have a discussion, right?
Yeah,
and we talk
absolutely.
about it. So in our minds, that's how we feel, and that's what we think a true partnership is. And I think that speaks to the reason why we're still working together after 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So we built a lot of trust, bi-directional trust with one another. And I know that from team feedback that they absolutely love working with you guys, you and Rich. Rich has been around a long time too, so a quick shout out to Rich also. We didn't forget about you. But no, you guys have just been a blessing to work with. So maybe pivot a little bit and talk about, if you can, talk about like some of your technology initiatives that you guys have coming up, or things that you see, like where you might see the company going from a technology perspective.
Yeah, so like you said, we kind of had an old school mentality for a long time. We still do to some extent. We were a little slow to get on board on the cloud platform, but that's something I really want to get going, is have some servers that are in the clouds. We reduce our reliance on electricity, cooling here.
Yeah.
And we still
This facility specifically.
It's really kind of cool to see where the technology is going, where we can have all that. Security, keeps me up at night still too.
I know.
That's one of the reasons why we'd have a little bit of an older school mentality.
Sure. Well, I think you guys are set up pretty well to go to cloud. When there's some things I think about for an organization that's going to start to look towards going to the cloud, is obviously security is a big one, compliance, but having a robust internet connection, and shockingly, in my mind, out here in kind of a more rural area, you guys have actually a pretty robust fiber internet connectivity, which is really great, and it sets you guys up really well to have really high uptime to those cloud type environment, which I know is massively a massive requirement for you guys.
Right, absolutely. And with your guys' help with our wireless backhaul, we have a
redundant network,
right?
We
have a failover as well.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So pretty neat stuff. Yeah. I can think back too. I mean, previous leadership, obviously family leadership, was like, hey, we got to keep everything in house. We don't want to have our data be out online. And personally too, being in the IT business, in IT for 24 years, I'm not one that's actually like a bleeding edge type guy. So I've had some of those reservations as well. I mean, just internally at our organization, we were a little more reserved in adopting some cloud technologies. And that's just primarily from a support org perspective, right? It seems like the more bleeding edge type IT stuff, there's always going to be more support, right?
Sure.
And so I've got to think across our base of partners, like how, if we start to push that direction, what's that impact going to be? Not only from an internal impact perspective, but the end user type of frustration and whatnot. And my opinion now is that things are starting to become pretty mature.
Yeah, and the transition seems to be a lot more seamless as well, which is kind of cool to take advantage of. Yeah, especially with such a mobile workforce. We have people working out of Chicago, out of LA, at home.
Sure.
Thanks to COVID, everything has had to go that way.
Kind of fast forwarded everything. Right.
Yeah. So being able to connect anywhere in the world has been almost an immediate need. Starting March 2020, right around there. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
So leveraging that a little bit more as we go on is a big initiative of ours. A recent initiative was, getting our backups in a more secure location, which you guys helped us out with.
Great.
So that's been really fantastic to see.
Yeah.
With all the breaches that happen, you hear that people will to look at your backups first, corrupt those, and then go after you.
Absolutely, yeah. It seems like the new trend these days is not only to ransomware or encrypt the computer systems, obviously the backup systems, then there's also this data exfiltration thing, which is, seems to be a newer trend in the last few years, but it's always great to have your backups in a spot that, okay, I can always go back to that data pretty rapidly.
Right.
And it makes me think in my mind, like, why did it take so long for the MGM folks to get back online? And I know obviously their network's probably pretty massive, but makes me wonder potentially, and we won't ever hear about it, but did their backup infrastructure become compromised potentially as an example, right?
Maybe.
So to take multiple weeks to roll back, doesn't seem to be a good business strategy,
not
right?
at
Or
all.
IT recovery strategy. So.
Right, and being in a small business, we can't afford. We don't have $100 million to.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anyone has $1 million that they would just want to give away.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's user education on our part, and
Sure.
help your guys' help as well to figure out how best to leverage that, how best to educate our users that one click can really, really be damaging.
That's right. Yeah, it sure can, and that's like 60+% of most breaches come in through an email. So
yeah, it's just insanity.
Yeah. So protecting that component, doing user education, as you mentioned, through maybe security awareness training, these kinds of things. Get you to 60%, and then obviously you're doing lots of protection on the workstations, the more advanced protection on the workstations. We're doing that on the servers and all the network infrastructure and firewalls and all of that now, and continuing to stay up on what's the current, the current solutions, so that we make sure that we're keeping things as secured for the current threats, right?
Right, yeah, and it's always changing, almost seems month to month.
It is. It's always changing.
Right.
I can't add enough bodies to keep up with the pace. It just seems like things are just at rapid speed.
Yeah, funny, not funny, right?
Yeah, funny, not funny. Yeah. So back to cloud just a little bit. We're starting to do more with the 365 cloud, email. Maybe start to look into doing some file sharing inside the cloud now.
Yeah.
You talked about having your remote users, so that would be a cool functionality for them, so they could move away from maybe traditional VPNs as an example. So adopting more of the Microsoft stack, good old Microsoft. Embrace it or don't, right?
But the subscription model just irks me
a
little bit, but
everything's
just kind
going
of the way
that,
of the industry, and
it's,
when you factor in, like you've said to me, you factor in the hardware costs and the cooling costs and the power.
Sure. Refreshing equipment over the years, right?
Yeah, and then replace that with just a subscription model. It's more, but it's not a ton more when you really dive into it.
Yeah.
And just the leverage that you can get in terms of being able to connect anywhere in the world without a traditional VPN.
Yeah.
It can be a lot more secure. Can be
you can lock that border down, which is great, right? You can make that machine look like it's not even online anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's definite benefit.
And simpler for the end user. So it's all around pretty good idea.
That's right. That's true. Good point. So one thing, just thinking in my mind here about why we've started to embrace Microsoft a little bit more internally at GroupOne is the security element we talked about, right? So we got to be cybersecurity experts. We got to be network experts. We got to be desktop and server and cloud and all these disciplines. And so shifting some of that off onto an organization that has tens of thousands of cybersecurity experts is also a benefit, and also helps us as an organization. So when you're thinking about that subscription model, just carve out a few bucks in that subscription model for that, just for that piece, right? Thinking about, okay, they're managing the servers, they're managing the Office application now, they're managing the Exchange server and all these kinds of bits, right? Those are all in that license. But I'm with you. Yeah, the world's changed quite a bit in terms of
and that's kind of one of the
charging for everything on a monthly fee, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's the way the world goes, and it's a smart model on their end, to do it. And I've made the argument too that we don't have the bandwidth or the knowledge to have all that security. We don't have the budget to do that. And Microsoft does. Yeah. So it's been really nice to pitch that to our senior management and have them be like, okay, that makes a lot of sense to start migrating that way.
Yeah, and sometimes you got to lay it out and show them all the costs and the cost benefit, and then say, hey, if we had a cybersecurity person full time on staff, it's X dollars. So yeah, it's there's also this old school mentality of leadership that IT is just an expense.
Cost center.
Cost center.
Yeah.
So how speaking of that just a little bit, like how have you kind of navigated that inside the organization here?
Kind of the old school mentality was still here when I first started, where, the goal was to spend as little as humanly possible.
Sure.
Like, okay, well, we can do that, but, if you want all these bells and whistles, which, who doesn't, it costs some money to do that.
Yeah.
So, my job has been to pitch them like, well, here's a smart way to spend the money. And by the way, where we're going to spend that money, we're going to save money on this end.
Sure.
Like you had mentioned in cloud, we save on hardware refresh costs. We save on a whole bunch of different things. There are things that just cost a little bit more money.
Sure.
If we want like cybersecurity insurance, that costs some premium.
Yeah, that's right.
But if you look at the breaches that have happened, it's pennies on the dollar to just get the cybersecurity insurance, get yourself some peace of mind.
That's right.
And move forward as best you can.
Yeah, that's a good point. We've had internal discussions about at what point are we going to require our customer partners to have cyber insurance liability policies, because while we can do all these wonderful things to protect their business, right, we still see these large companies get breached. They're using a lot of the same type of tool sets we are, but having that peace of mind is worth the cost of the cyber insurance policy. Sure, we can recover your backup, and these kinds of things, but there's other elements to it.
Yeah, you can't replace the time.
That's right.
So, and in giving my senior management an eye on the consequences of what could happen, and like I said, the pennies on the dollar to help avoid that, or at least mitigate it as much as possible.
Sure.
It's been really cool.
Good.
So when I first started too, we had a whole bunch of physical servers, and we migrated to a VM environment.
Sure.
Thanks to you guys, obviously.
Yeah. So that all virtualized, slimmed down onto less equipment.
Yeah, and then it was actually a cost savings to us. It was way easier to manage. Our uptime is quite a bit more.
Yeah.
We had one of our ignition servers that we brought back to our main building.
Good.
And it's even more redundant than it was before in a smarter way.
Oh, great.
And saved us a ton of money. So saved us a ton of uptime too.
Sure.
So every time, I don't know if you remember the double take servers that every time they'd swap over, they would never swap back.
Yes.
So it caused us downtime just to go back to normal. And now people don't even notice. Like, we'll notice because we'll get the alerts about it, but
that's awesome.
It's been kind of cool to go again to my senior management and say, here's the downtime that we had this last month, and by the way, you guys didn't even notice it.
Yeah, that's really great.
We had all these redundancies, all these things in place that we paid money for.
Yeah,
but
sure.
It's keeping us running.
And in their mind, they translate they translate the uptime piece like to money, right?
Exactly.
That's a real tangible thing to the organization. Like if your IT infrastructure in this large of a company is down for a few hours a day or even longer,
that's huge.
That's huge. That could be also missed deliveries on commitments to your customers. So that's a really good point. I wanted to touch back on a little bit about IT with the selling IT and changes in IT to the executive leadership a little bit. One thing we at GroupOne try to do is really try to help business leaders understand that if you leverage IT properly, that it becomes a ability for you to grow and scale your organization more rapidly, right? So rather than it just being a cost center, as you talked about, if we're leveraging tech correctly, leveraging your ERP properly and tying in all your systems, it actually helps build the business.
Oh, yeah.
And set the business up for growth. And I think you guys have started to embrace that actually over the last 10 years. You've been on a significantly robust enterprise resource planning platform now, and I think that's when I think back of how things were tied together before. This has been a significant shift, and I would beg to assume that it's been very it's enhanced the end user experience and the employees that do their job in that platform, and less stuff to manage. And so maybe you can talk about the benefit that's been to the organization.
Yeah, so that's actually been a really big step up for us, moving up now 6 years ago to our newest ERP platform.
Cool.
having everybody on that, being able to work out of that for literally everything, and then being able to tie our old school systems into it.
Yeah.
Now we're starting to leverage Power Automate.
Cool.
To even save on hiring. I mean,
interesting.
It's cool to think about all these redundant things that you can do.
Sure.
That you just have AI take care of it, and you save on costs there.
Oh,
so
that's a whole topic that we could dive into for a while.
Yeah. So
automation. I mean, you Power Automate, right? So just automating business processes. A lot of the tools that are available in IT now, they're starting to lean towards doing more automation or robotic automation. RPA is an example of a term.
Yeah.
That does, automating of tasks, right? Especially remedial tasks. So
right. Yeah.
Yeah, leaning into that is huge, right?
Yeah, it's been really, really cool. We've helped our accounting department, we've helped our shipping department, we've helped our receiving department with Power Automate, just different
really
automation
neat.
Tools. And it's all coming from our ERP system to pull that all down and put it back up into the system.
So even from the point that I walked in the door here, there's something that I noticed. So they had us scan a QR code downstairs when we signed in. That I noticed went to a Microsoft Forms link.
Yes, it did.
You got the whole thing dialed in and automated there. There's no more manual signatures on a clipboard anymore. And you get a good tracking. It goes right into electronically. You don't have to scan things.
Yep.
It timestamps it. So I could really tell that you guys were leaning into tech, and it's cool to see you guys are leaning into some of that Microsoft subscription you guys are purchasing, right?
Yeah, and if you go through the plant, you'll see QR codes. If there's ever an accident, scan a QR code. If there's some sort of inspection that you need to do on a forklift or any piece of equipment, there's a QR code that you just
really cool.
do that. There's no, where's this form? What form do I do? Just boom, and done.
Oh, that's really neat. So actually, that just given me some ideas from some other clients.
Saved us a ton of time.
Oh, that's really cool. How neat is that? Well, we couldn't appreciate you enough letting us come out here and shoot some footage, getting to talk to you in person, do this awesome one-on-one podcast. Pretty neat.
Yeah.
It's nice to get to talk to our partners and get their feedback, obviously, and learn more about their business. And again, we couldn't appreciate our partnership more.
Great, and likewise, it's great to have you guys up here. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you too.
My friend.
Yeah, thank you, buddy.
So, but
appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again. The podcast is kind of cool.
Yeah, podcasts again, 2024 coming to you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyways, good to see you. All right, brother. Thanks so much.